a month when the moon is in the sun sign that you were born under, new blood is generated in the body. In order to regenerate and produce new blood, the oil must be raised to the optic thalamus. This is a sacred secret simply because the secretion which comes from the sacral plexus is one of the most important things that we need to know for physiological regeneration. From the claustrum there is a secretion, brain fluid, and this fluid is an oil. In ancient times this fluid was called, in Greek, Hristos. It's called the Christ. It's this beautiful fluid which comes from the cerebrum and pours down the spinal cord. It goes down the spinal cord and it reaches the sacral plexus, right next door to the sacrum. And the fluid which comes from the cerebrum pours down the spinal cord and comes to the bottommost part of the spinal cord. Now, the claustrum is otherwise known as the holy claustrum, simply because of this beautiful oil, this Christos, that is produced and secreted.
When I found this video, my mind was blown away. It sounded strange, but at the same time it felt right, so I began to do research on this topic. Another video that confirmed all of that for me is this one with Jim Carrey.
This substance comes from your medulla, makes the trip down your spine to your sacrum, which is
Quick, get a dictionary.
Christ coming down into human form.
Yes.
And if you don't squander that essence, that sexual essence, it ascends again and goes back up to heaven, which is your thing. It's also the story of Santa Claus. Why he comes down the chimney is because this juice or this whatever substance actually passes what's called the claustrum, which is where they got Santa Claus. So it goes down the chimney and back up the chimney.
Yes, Jim Carrey is talking about this, which made me look up more about this topic. It was really hard to find all the following information, perhaps because it's not intended for widespread public knowledge. Here's what I found. Inside our head, in the skull, we have the cerebrum, and there's a special part in it called the claustrum. This claustrum is right in the middle of our head, and it releases a special kind of brain fluid, an oil. In ancient Greek, this fluid was known as Christos, or the Christ. This wonderful fluid starts from the cerebrum and flows down through the spinal cord. It travels down to the lower back, near a group of bones called the sacrum. The sacrum is made up of 5 bones joined together, right at the bottom of our spine. Below the sacrum is the coccyx, the very end of the spinal column. Close to the sacrum, there's a network of nerves called the sacral plexus. The oil from the cerebrum goes all the way down to this lower part of the spine. The claustrum is also called the holy claustrum because of this special oil, this crystal-like substance it creates. The word sacred is thought to come from secretion because this secretion is a hidden thing, and the sacrum is the sacred part of the secret. As the secretion travels down the spinal cord to the sacrum, we see the amazing design of our body. The spinal cord is really an extension of the brain, and it helps with thinking too. Now, about the holy claustrum, it's also called the Santa Claus drum. This is because the fluid that flows to the sacral plexus is considered sacred. This idea is where the Santa Claus story comes from, with him bringing gifts down the chimney. It's a tale about how our bodies work. Also, the Bible can be seen as a guide to how our bodies can renew themselves. Here's what happens. Every month, when the moon is in the same zodiac sign as when you were born, a special seed or germ is formed in the solar plexus, just above the sacral plexus. This germ is the oil, the Christ, born in Bethlehem. In this context, Bethlehem is another name for the solar plexus where this Christ or seed begins. This seed, this oil, is meant to go back to where it started in the midbrain. As the oil moves up the spinal cord, its vibration, the energy of the Christ oil gets stronger. But first, the oil is processed in the pineal gland and the pituitary gland before it travels down the spinal cord. The pineal gland is linked with electricity, while the pituitary gland is associated with magnetism. The oil is separated out, and then it travels down the spinal cord through the pingala and either nerves. These nerves are also called the kundalini and the kundabuffa. The oil reaches the sacral plexus and waits for a special seed to form once a month. which happens 12 times a year. If we manage to transform this seed and make it rise, it moves up the spinal cord. It then gets to the medulla oblongata, the pons, and the midbrain, crossing the vagus nerve, also known as pneumogastric nerve. This nerve starts in the brain area, near the pineal and pituitary glands, and it goes to the lungs and the stomach. This whole nerve system is called the tree of